Hey everyone, welcome to the 6th week of the Shadow Dancer devlog series. Last week we finished the playable prototype and during the weekend we gave it to our friends to test it. Now it's time to throw everything out and start to build it up once again. No, I'm not joking and I will explain it in a moment, but first let's talk about what we learned from the playtesting. One of our testers took her time and captured how she playing our game. Watching this gameplay was fun and very informative at the same time. If you are working weeks on the game, you become less aware of the gameplay problems. You don't make any mistake when you are playing the game because you know how it works. This video pointed out some issues that we couldn't figure out by ourselves. These were gameplay and level design problems that I explained later. We discovered two obvious problems just by talking with our testers. In the default quality settings, the lower ones disable fully the shadow in the game. While we knew about this, we didn't realize this will be a problem until one of our testers started to play without any shadow. Well, that totally ruined the gameplay for her. We have to make our custom quality tiers to get rid of this problem. Another interesting problem was that two of our testers went fully off-road, leaving the nicely detailed level behind for a flat nothingness. We need invisible barriers to keep our testers focused. With finishing the playable prototype, we close down the prototype phase of the development. This also means we have to throw out our current work and start it again from scratch. This is a hard but necessary step, since the prototype is some kind of sketch where we drop in everything that seemed to be fit. We spent most of our week to set up a new project, importing the assets we want to use, rebuilding the scene and writing the codes we will need for the game. We made changes on the level layout since the one in the prototype didn't guide the player well enough. They didn't find the shadow gate because the level leads them right into the camp. During the prototyping, I combined the 3D Game Kit event system with my own game architecture that is based on scriptable objects. This architecture follows the idea of Ryan Hippel. He is a principal engineer at Shell Games. He made a Unite talk about the architecture they are using, link in the description. It's quite genius and I was inspired to make my own version. I used this for plenty of projects since then and it was very convenient and quick to work with. I will publish it in the Unity Asset Store soon, but that's a different story. Since we were satisfied with the workflow in the prototype, I started to build up better this combination. The core principle of this is compartmentalization, separating the parts of the system to prevent malfunctions from spreading between or among them. You might be thinking this is the core principle of the object-oriented programming too. You are right, but since we are using component-based architecture where a single component contains a small code only, object-oriented programming wouldn't be appropriate here in my terms. I like to call it the three layers of communication, where the first layer, the smallest one, is the prefab layer. Most of our prefab functions are made with simple components that utilize Unity events. Rule of thumb is we are only using Unity events within prefabs. We have the burning crate prefab, where Unity event turns on the particle, interest target for the AI, and the audio. The second layer is the scene layer. Every communication between prefabs on the scene works with game command system from the 3D game kit. This is a great system, easy to see which game object calls whom due to the gizmos. Currently, it supports only one-to-one connection type. Where we needed many-to-one connection, we made child objects for the prefab, each with a single game command sender, and call each of them with a Unity event. Important note, we only allow this type of communication between game objects that are connected to the scene. The third layer is what I called game layer or global layer. We are using scriptable object events and listener components, similar to the ones that are presented in the Unite talk. Understanding the difference between scene communication and global communication might be difficult sometimes. Our rule of thumb is this. Global is when the result of the event should be the same regardless the scene is currently loaded. Otherwise, it's a scene communication. Here is an example for the scene communication. The trigger activates the burning crates, but both of them could be used differently in other scenes. They are communicating on scene layer instead of global. An example for global communication could be a UI or the player. These should work in the same way regardless of the scene. For narrative dialogues, we have multiple actors on the scene. The character, the guards, and the obelisks. We want to show an avatar image and the name of the actor with the text. I already made a dialogue system for the asset store. We could use it for this project and it would work fine. The asset is made with conversation in mind, however, and not with narratives. For every box of text, we should make a new dialogue graph, which is not an optimal workflow. I'm currently working on an update of the asset to support narratives much better. Once it's done, we will put that into Shadow Dancer. Until that time, we will use the solution I just made using the 3D Game Kit phrases feature. It was just faster to make. It would be useful during the test to have a possibility to restart the level or load the last checkpoint when the player got stuck somewhere. So I made a pause menu with these options. That's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed this video. Next week we will continue working on this project and getting closer to the vertical slice. Thanks for watching. We will see you all next time.